60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
Hello and welcome. This is 60 Minutes with me, Angela at Jiti. Thank you for joining me on the program today. Now, what is wrong with the president addressing every Nigerian tragedy? I read where you said he didn't need to respond to everyone. I thought, shouldn't it be relative to our circumstances and our own environment? Even if he's very busy and traveling all over the world, Nigerians still want to see him express some empathy when tragedies occur.
Yes. It is not only the president that must speak in a government. That's where you have government apparatus. You have the minister, you have the personal aides of the president. So the president is not the only one that necessarily should speak. That's what Nigerians should remember. Don't forget that in the last days of the Jonathan administration, where bombing occurred every day, and the president will speak on every bombing, it had begun to even boomerang against him. Because whenever it happened and he spoke, it got to a point that they would tell him, we don't want to hear, we want action. So you can't continue to speak on everything, particularly with the frequency that certain things happen in Nigeria.
Yes.
The governor of the state is there. The minister is there. Special advisors to the president are there. And then, as a last case scenario, the president can speak when he wants to.
How does he hear what we say? Does he read the newspapers? Does he watch television? We all, myself included, imagine that he is so cocooned in the villa, and that when people get there, the opulence of the villa robs them of the ability to tell him what Nigerians really want him to hear.
That actually is a misperception. It's a grave error. The president has his feet firmly planted on the ground. It's possible that when you operate in a place like the presidential villa, you have your head and your feet in the clouds.
Yes.
But this is a man that is so down to earth, and he has his feet firmly planted on the ground. The first thing he does every day when he gets to the office? He looks at the media highlights that my department will have prepared. The very first week in the villa, he had told me that by 10 a.m. every day, he wants to have the media highlights.
What are media highlights? A rundown of all the newspapers.
Yes, of what they are saying, particularly as it affects the presidency. First thing in the morning, staff in the media department are at their desks preparing those highlights. And by 10 a.m., the president has it. And that is the first thing he goes through. The highlights, when he needs further information, he then goes to the specific paper. But the first thing he does is to go through the media highlights, whether he is at home or outside the country.
He receives it outside the country?
Outside the country, people do it from Nigeria and send by email. So every day, he has a rundown of what the media is saying about the presidency, about him, about government policies and all that. So he reads it religiously. There was a day weeks ago, I visited him in the residence in the evening. And when we had finished discussing the things I took to him, I then told him, Mr. President, the times are tough economically. There's hunger in the land. The president said, yes, I'm aware. I know that there's hunger in the land, but this time shall pass. So it just shows you that he is aware of everything going on in the country, and he knows why he sought the job to make a difference in the life of Nigerians, and is committed to making that difference. Don't forget that as soon as the government came in May 2015, oil prices plummeted. It dropped to $32 per barrel from 120. For instance, in July, all that Nigeria made from oil was 52 billion naira.
52 million.
52 billion naira was all that Nigeria made from oil. If you translate that into dollar, you know how much it is. How much do we pay as salary for federal civil servants alone? 165 billion every month.
Run that by me again. 52 billion naira now.
Naira was all we made from oil in July.
Yes.
And salaries of federal civil servants is 165 billion, and we made 52. So how do you expect government to pay for that money? Even before Jonathan left, they had been borrowing from central bank
to pay salaries.
To pay salaries. Okonjo-Iweala said it. And that's the truth. They had been borrowing to pay salaries. By the time this administration came, a minimum of 28 states were owing salaries. That was as at May 2015. 28 states were owing salaries. Now, how come that some people still expect things to be the same? You were earning $3.2 billion a month. It dropped to 500 million. You know, one of the reality checks that led to the new price regime of petrol is the fact that our earnings crashed. You recall that the president had always said that he would never remove subsidy from oil.
Yes.
Because he was people-centered. He always said when oil sold at $120 per barrel, what did the ordinary Nigerians benefit?
Gain from it.
Yes. That he would now bear the brunt of the crash in oil prices. The president was determined to continue to subsidize the price of petrol for the sake of the ordinary people. But then in April, you know how much we made? $550 million total.
From 3 billion.
From 3 billion. We made $550 million, and out of that $550 million, you know how much we spent on subsidy? $250 million. Half. So all that the country had to use for healthcare, for education, for salaries, for security, defense was $250 million. That was when the reality struck home that we couldn't continue with that price regime, and that's why the price regime for fuel was changed. Left to this president, if oil sold at $120 per barrel or $150 as it hit even under the last administration, you will see how the ordinary people will really, really enjoy and benefit. Now that what is on ground has come upon us, people then should be patient and cooperate and encourage the government as it works to ensure that we get back to better days. Because what if oil prices do not appreciate for the next 2-3 years?
We're in trouble.
Serious trouble. So it means we have to be serious about agriculture. We have to be serious about exploiting our solid minerals. We have to be serious about getting more people into the tax net. We have to be serious about customs duties and all that. All the other avenues of getting revenue, Nigeria has to be serious about them so that government can continue to run and the people can continue to live well. But when you begin to shout and scream and wail, Father Mbaka said something which was very, very instructive. He said, a man came into your kitchen. He packed away all your food. He went away, leaving nothing in your kitchen. Now another man comes and is restocking your kitchen, putting food back in it, and then you begin to shout on the man that is restocking your kitchen. We are hungry, we are hungry, we are dying. Who should you rather shout against? It's the man that packed away your food. People who should necessarily be patient with this administration, encourage the administration. Do you know that governments can get discouraged? Governments can get discouraged. If you listen to all that is said on social media and you read all the things that are said there, I'm sure it can discourage you.
Yes.
And then it's not good for a country. They should rather encourage, they should rather support, and even pray. And eventually we'll get to where we are going.
Your opinion on this budget padding?
Budget padding. It's not new now, as
Everyone
you know.
says it's not new.
It's not new. It happened during Obasanjo. The civil servants and the ministers pay money to senators of their committee and say, increase it by so percent and we'll give you this.
Yes.
But the senators are smarter now. They say, bring the money well in advance.
Yes.
We don't want to wait until
The budget
later,
is passed.
Until the budget is passed. These have happened before, and it does keep happening. The civil servants are smart in these matters. They are the ones who teach their bosses how to the way to corruption, and it's a shame. But that doesn't mean it will stop. This is a different society. It's not going to stop. They do it all the time. Do they do it alone? They do it because the senators are also interested. The members of the House are also interested. It's a symbiotic relationship, a corrupt symbiotic relationship.
You say, will it stop? It won't stop. Does that mean that President Buhari is taking on too much at this time?
He is. He is, because there is too much to take on. I'm not saying he should slow down. No. The level of corruption is too high. He cannot slow down. I want him to set the example. Whether he will run in 2019 or not, we want to have an example set in these 4 years. And then we'll be able to tell whoever comes in 2019 that we must not pull back. We must go forward. We must continue to prosecute corruption until we drive it down to the barest minimum. He's setting a good example, and I think we must encourage him to continue that way. Whether you say he's trying members of the opposition or not, I don't care.
Mr. Ekpu, you think that anybody who comes in 2019, if it is not President Buhari, will be able to continue this kind of war with the way we see corruption fighting back?
Yes. Corruption will always fight back. It always fights back. But the example Buhari is setting, we must encourage the major parties to say, okay, we forgive you whatever you did in the past. But corruption, any party that comes must fight it. If Buhari is not running in 2019, APC must find a man of steel as its candidate who is ready to fight corruption. Buhari is able to fight corruption because it's not corrupt. If you remove Buhari, remove Oshibanjo, the APC is equivalent of PDP. There's no difference. Buhari makes that difference.
Do you think the APC will have a chance in 2019 if it's not Buhari and Oshibanjo again?
I don't know, 2019 is still a little far away. There is a lot of hustling going on already about 2019.
You don't think Saraki's case is also about 2019?
Well, people have said that to me, that he's ambitious, he wants to be the president in 2019. Yes, that may well be true, but you see, he's in a very difficult situation.
How?
He's a Yoruba man who lives in the north. The way these things are arranged, would they have nominated a Yoruba man? People would say, but a Yoruba man had run from 1999 to 2007.
Yes.
These things are
Does
based...
Senator Saraki consider himself a Yoruba man or a northern?
He has a Yoruba name. He speaks Yoruba. His father was a Yoruba man. That was one of the things that haunted his father, Oloshola. It's a difficult situation because it's a difficult country. Why shouldn't anybody be free to run? You say because of geography or his religion or the language that he speaks. It's totally unacceptable. Can we make that transition to a society where anybody can become president of Nigeria? Man, woman, wherever he comes from, whichever language he speaks, whichever God he worships.
Yes.
Look at America. How could a black man whose origin is Kenya become president of the most powerful nation in the world?
Yes.
Whoever thought Obama would get there? Well, maybe we're still far behind, but I hope that we will make that transition. We'll begin to think differently. Who can deliver? The reason this system is not running well is because we don't respect institutions. What is the State House of Assembly doing? It's non-existent. The governors run most of the state houses of assembly because the governors bring out the money.
Yes.
The governors say, okay, this is our budget. Pass it in 5 minutes. They share the money and pass it in 5 minutes. What sort of system is that? That is what happens. You don't have the robust debates that you ought to have, which should make things work well. How come the state houses of assembly exist and the governors were owing 10 months, 8 months salary to their staff? The people who elected them didn't say anything, and the people who were elected didn't say anything, didn't do anything. Now is payback time. I think the workers should harass them to sit down and think of how to raise revenue and not keep going to the federal government asking for a bailout. The federal government has bailed them out, but the rest of the work has to be done by them. There are many sources of raising revenue globally. Even if you surf the internet, you'll find how governments around the world raise money.
Yes.
You can be creative about it, but they're not sitting down to think because they're used to going with a begging bowl to Abuja and collecting it. Now the tide has changed and they need to sit down and do some thinking. What can we do with what we have in the States? Sit down and hold a conference with thinkers. Let them come up with ideas of how you can survive. Nobody gave anybody an assurance that the price of oil will drop the way it's dropping. And it may drop further. So don't go to spiritual church to pray that you should go up. I'm rather praying that it should go down further so that we begin to think. When we have too much money, we cannot think. If we can think, innumerable sources of wealth. This country is wealthy. So I ask the state governors to sit down and think. They can come up with a lot of ideas that will help to take them out of the financial morass in which they are now.
You know, perhaps if the House of Representatives had known, they wouldn't have sacked Abdul Mumin Jibrin from his post as chairman of the Appropriations Committee of the House. Do you think that it was that sack that really led to these revelations?
It's obvious to me that Honorable Abdul Mumin Jibrin is not being patriotic and altruistic.
Why do you say that?
He is not a voluntary whistleblower. He's not motivated by high principles.
Are you saying that because he didn't
morality.
complain initially?
He was part of it, and it's not denied that. Indeed, he said, we are immersed in institutional corruption, and I'm part of it. I'm like a born again now. I'm an anti-corruption crusader. If I'm the one that is going to expose all this, so be it. So he's not denying that he's been part of the rot that he's complaining about in the National Assembly. I think that we should not discourage him. Indeed, we should pray that the tribe of those who want to spill the beans and expose the soft and dirty underbelly of the National Assembly should increase. I think that it's on a national service right now. It's given concreteness, credence, credibility, and validation to what Nigerians have always known as the dirtiness of certain things in the National Assembly, but which nobody in that National Assembly has been willing up to now come out and give a voice to. Now, we now have a voice who is ready to say so many things and is submitted petitions to the police, to the EFCC, to the ICPC, the anti-corruption agencies. And I think that the state has a responsibility to give him certain protection as a witness to the infamy that has been transpiring in the National Assembly. Now, what is the nature of this allegation? In summary, what he's saying is that we've been using the budget as a vehicle of fraud.
But you know, I just want to read to you one of the quotations I have from him here. He says, every year there have always been insertions which is made up of constituency projects. since 1999 to date, that is padding, has been outrageous. What I think is wrong is when the insertion goes out of proportion. The only difference is that in 2016, it went completely off the board, end of quote. In other words, it's been going on for long, but this year's own was unprecedented, which is why he's coming out to say these things.
I think we have to read between the lines. That's what he's saying.
Yes.
I don't think that that's the motivation. It's like he's painting the picture of a repentant person,
Yes.
who is outraged by the enormity and the humongous value
Yes.
of the pardon, and that's why he's now complaining. I don't think that that's why he's complaining. Why he's complaining, in my view, is because he's been yanked off a committee that is regarded as the engine room of the National Assembly.
A juicy committee.
In fact, the juiciest appropriation committee. You know, if you take the amendment of the Constitution, the next most important thing that the legislature does is to appropriate money, is to pass an appropriation bill into law for the assent of the president.
So in other
And
words,
so-
that committee oversees anything we want to
It's
spend.
very important, including the money that the National Assembly will get. That committee is very important. And when the House of Rep or Senate or both of them are under pressure,
Yes.
as they usually are,
Yes.
because they don't take seriously the job of appropriation. Maybe we have about 30 days for them to do that. And Nigerians are saying, when are you going to pass the budget? You know, they just allow the appropriation committees to do the work,
To handle everything.
to handle everything. So it's a very powerful committee. So when you then have somebody being yanked off from that committee by a colleague and principal who had the prerogative to announce the composition of the committee, and who deliberately, we must assume, had put him
There.
as the head of that committee. When you have somebody being yanked off with the first budget, when there are 3 other budgets in the life of that nation, is a lot to him. And so he wasn't going to take it lightly.
Yes.
And so he's come out to spill the beans. I'm not condemning him for spilling the beans.
We're all using this word, padding. Isn't it just forgery or stealing?
Well, pardon is an euphemism
Yes.
for corruption. And I think that it's important that we try to break it down
Right.
so that people explain what is pardon that
Yes.
you're talking about. What Honorable Jibril is trying to tell Nigerians is that the executive under Section 80 and 81 of the Constitution, talking about federal executive branch of government, in particular the president, prepares estimates of revenue that is going to be generated in a budget year and the expenditure under Section 80 and 81
Yes.
of the Constitution, and then present this to the National Assembly for consideration. Now, in violation of the basic principle of separation of powers, the members of the National Assembly then claim the power to insert their own budgetary heads, principally constituency projects
Yes.
that they wish to see executed in a budget year.
And you are saying they are not allowed to do
They're
that
not
by
allowed.
the
It's a
Constitution?
violation of the principle of separation of powers. The executive executes the laws, it administers the state, the legislature makes the law, and the judiciary interprets the law. The legislature cannot make budgetary proposal as if they were
The
in
executive.
the executive. No. So they cannot exercise that power. And then, in addition, exercise the power of approving of the budget. That means they are now combining 2 powers.
Yes.
And when they do that, they then toss the budget to the executive
To
and
sign.
blackmail the executive into signing. So that's why we had, and we've always had,
Yes.
this acrimonious relationship on the vast issue of signing the budget. It was so under Obasanjo regime.
Yes.
What I've given you is not what you are returning.
Yes.
And then they will claim, we are not a rubber stamp. We are supposed to inflate. We are supposed to do whatever. They are not supposed to do that. In the consideration of the budget, what they are supposed to do is to look at the estimates
That the president brought.
and not introduce new heads. So if those estimates in their own view are not sufficient,
Yes.
and there is justification to vote more money for a particular head or all the heads,
Yes.
they can do that.
Or vote less
Within
money.
Or vote less money.
Right.
If they see that there is no justification for all the line by line,
Requests yes.
or the subheads
Yes.
under a particular head. But what they do is to then, on their own, so moto as lawyers call it,
Yes.
insert certain heads and insist that those heads must be passed along with what have been brought. That has always been the contention. That has always been the reason for the acrimony between the executive branch and over this budget. So when they do that, insisting on this their constitution project, and they succeed in blackmailing the executive, to give assent. When assent is given, it has become an appropriation act. It has become a law. So in other words, they will then use the legislative process, and I call this abuse of legislative process, as a hideous vehicle to do Nigeria in and siphon money. So when they do that, that's the first stage.
Yes.
When it then gets to the National Assembly, and the money is now released for the constituency project.
The so-called
constituency project. What Jibrin is saying, and what I've always known, and what has been confirmed to me by some members of the National Assembly, is that a large chunk of the money, which he has called 40 billion, is taken out of the amount and given to the leadership of the House of Reps. In the Senate, something similar also occurs. In fact, their own figure is higher.
But
why
are we not hearing anything about the Senate?
Because
they are bigger
nobody is talking there yet.
Everybody is happy with the formula.
Yeah, they could have all sorts of problems. Recall that the last time when the 109 SUVs were purchased against the outcry by Nigerians, the media, editorialists, they claiming that and insisting that that should not happen, they went ahead anyway and they shared the SUVs amongst all their members. Nobody, we've been told, rejected in spite of their over-celebrated disagreement. In spite of all the talks about fighting on the floor, slapping somebody and all that, they all collected the SUVs, which makes what Fela used to say in those days, resonate, shop and claim out. That's the new name for stealing. So everybody takes his own share and then people keep quiet. It's always been going on like that, And so what Jibrin is calling our attention to is that in this year, 40 billion out of that 100 billion was to be taken by the leadership of the House of Reps. And he is telling us that that's why he disagrees. That's what he's saying. I've said that I don't think that that's why he's disagreed. And from that money, the Speaker will then fund his own constituency project. And then his allies and acolytes and supporters in the House, he will use that money to continue to buy their loyalty and support. So you have a constituency project
throughout his term.
That's what they've always done. Why the leadership was reluctant to join issue with Jibrin early was that they realized that Jibrin had gone out to spill the beans. And so if they were going to give explanations, they would have to delve into these dirty details and say that this is what we've always been doing. So Dogara is not the only person. So don't chop off his head. It's not the first person to do this. Don't chop off his head and all that. And they felt that Nigeria would be more indignant to say that, so you've been taking these large funds. So it's not even the executive alone that have been taking these so-called security votes and spending the money as they wish. So you have been taking this money also. So they didn't want Nigeria to know all that. But the truth is coming to light now. And so the anti-corruption agencies that have been instigated, so to speak, by Jibrin certainly have sufficient grounds now to proceed and conduct a thorough investigation. So that beyond the House of Representatives, also the Senate, if people are found wanting to have been committing these crimes, then they can be brought to justice.
A lot of people will be watching you now and think, all right, this is probably your revenge to Governor Fayose for not making you his deputy, as agreed between all three of you at the time.
For me, the word revenge wouldn't be the best of words to use. I'm just as human as anybody. Yes, at that point in time, I could have differences with Kayode Fayose, but I'm not in the place to revenge for anything. I leave all for the Almighty, the overseer of the events of man. I'm not in any revenge. I don't get mad, I get even. Ayo is a grown man, he'll be 57 now. became governor again at 55 right about.
Yes.
I don't see him as changing, and that's his own person anyway.
But he prides himself on having total control of the grassroots of Ekiti politics.
That is
How
an
do
illusion.
you know?
It's an illusion for real. Don't forget something. I told you he left the state for over 5 to 6 years, and PDP still continued. After I left the state, Segun won the elections and became the governor of the state under the party PDP. I won the elections and became a member of the House of Assembly and grew up to become the Speaker of the House of Assembly.
Yes.
And some of us had, I wouldn't say control, that's the wrong choice of word to use for humans.
Yes.
But the people of Ekiti loved us. They gave the trust to us. And we were holding the office in trust. And we did all this pretty well when Segun was there. He led as a progressive, clearly.
Yes.
You would see that if an individual comes into Ekiti and tells you he has control of the grassroots, he must have lost his mind, or he's just thinking out of his, well, let me use the word there. But again, I want to say something very clearly. When Ayodele Fauci came back to the state, some of us ushered him in to the state, believing that Ekiti is one of the youngest and the smallest states in the federation.
Yes.
We can't be fighting ourselves the way we are to the outside world and well-meaning people of Ekiti themselves. That we need to put ourselves together as a people and move the state forward. I really didn't see anything wrong in, at that point in time, bringing him back into the system.
Supporting him
and making sure he got to where he wanted to get to. And that's exactly what we did. But unfortunately, it's an innate thing for the person himself. You can make a horse, like the old adage says, go into the stream, but you can't really force that horse to drink water.
Are you people still friends? I mean, following his refusal to make you deputy governor, have you continued to speak to each other? Are you in contact with each other as friends?
One thing that is so clear that I've learned in politics, I'm not a friend, as in, we're political associates.
Okay.
Now,
Yes.
and it wasn't as it used to be before. I won't lie to you, in those days, we were very close.
You saw each other every day?
Every day. And before he takes decisions and consults with people like myself, we do things together.
Yes.
That was when he was trying to be governor. He was a good listener and he did everything that we wanted him to do at that point in time. But the moment he got a ticket, he just changed into his natural being. To your question, do we talk? If there's an opportunity that we meet in a function, why not? I would greet him. He's the governor of the state. It's a position that I'm aiming to attain, and you don't demean that office. It's an exalted office that you look upon those who occupy such positions as people with good character and all that. So if he has done what he's doing, or he's doing what he's doing, does not mean I should, as a person, refuse to talk to him. We will talk if we get to functions. But outside of that, we're friends.
You said no regrets. You've also said you're tired of apologizing to people for bringing Governor Fayose into the PDP. Why did you describe the 2014 governorship election as a coup d'etat?
Yeah, because the way we manage the election, it's not in line with the electoral heart. Let me put it in quotes. When you are talking about election, it should spread over a period of time.
Not just on election day.
Not just on election day. But because in Nigeria, people are always focusing on the election day, we now manage pre-election day. So coming into election day, we allow people to see what we want them to see. But before the election day, we are contesting against people, against party, and we had the federal might. Even before the primaries, while we were trying to get ex-President Jonathan to buy into the project, we sold the notion to him that for his second term ambition, we need to secure the Southwest. Because given Southeast, South-South, we PDP is sitting pretty there.
Yes.
But because of the clamoring of our brothers from the north, they were asking for a northern president.
Yes.
And because we have decided to give ex-President Jonathan another opportunity, some people were saying no, he should have sacrificed that ambition for the party to still be in power. But you know that he also worked very hard to secure the presidency for the party. So he was buying all sorts of ideas that he termed to be reasonable enough to take him there. And so we told him, the Northwest, Northeast, But North Central, we are in and out of North Central as a party. But Southwest, we are not there at all. But South and Southeast, we are there as a party. So we said for him to be able to match what our northern brothers will bring with the northern president from the north, given our position that we cannot easily determine in the North Central, then we need to work on the Southwest, which is like a sitting zone for APC. We need to take the battle to their home. So we said that the only man that can do that is Governor Fayose. Of course, we manage all sorts of security reports, formal and informal, within the party, within the presidency, to make sure. There was even, I won't mention the name, a senator that helped us to package all these things so as to show to ex-President Jonathan that you need Ekiti to get into Osun and to get into the South.
And I'm happy you used the word package, because that's the reaction. A lot of people are saying that you deserve what you got. If you helped in packaging someone, it meant that that product was not a great product. Hence, you were packaging it. And so in packaging this product, you were either packaging it for your own personal benefit, what you hoped to gain, and having not gained it, you've lost out. And that's why you are saying this election was a coup d'etat.
When we were packaging Governor Fayose, it was because, as younger brothers to him, he made us believe that he has changed. You need to see this man pray.
What do you mean pray? Prayer warrior pray?
Yes, pray. In fact, we can't pray as he can pray. And you need to see him when he's trying to get something from you.
He was all humility, humble,
and he will tell us stories. We will be laughing. He will demonstrate all sorts of things to us. You know, it's like if he's governor today, at times he just come into his office and we will now sit on his chair, and he will come in and you say, okay, you are using that chair. Okay, be governor for a day, and you go somewhere, you will just sit somewhere. That's he made us to
want to do it.
Yes, that's why we say that he's almost a better politician than us, because we were playing our own politics from the heart.
Yes, and you think he was deceiving you? Yes.
So, and we put everything we had into it. With that conviction,
yes,
President Jonathan now supported him massively.
When Brigadier General Diko, former commander of the Army Brigade in Akure,
we went to him, we said you should give us soldiers.
Were you shocked when he said no?
He didn't even give us the opportunity to see him face to face.
Oh,
he sent somebody to tell us that he is aware. Yes, somebody arranged the meeting, but he's not going to honor it.
So he wasn't interested.
He said he's a military man, he's a professional.
When the whole thing was going on, did you ever think that something is wrong here? If your aim was to make all the APC members, demobilize them, so to speak, or demobilize them at least for 24 hours going into Sunday morning.
No, not for 24 hours. The operation was for 72 hours. Between Wednesday to Saturday in the morning.
You took them out. They were not allowed to move around.
They were not allowed to move around. They were in special detention camps. We confiscated some of the funds with them, and then we seized some materials from them. The tag for the party agents that were given to them by INEC, we took it from them, and some other issues like that.
How did you get the results sheets signed? Because all parties must sign.
Yes, some of our people were wearing the party tags of
APC.
When the leaders were nowhere to be found, when the mobilizers were nowhere,
yes,
the funds were not there, and then they have seen the presence of military. So many people did not even come out, and we have hounded, we have harassed some key leaders who kept on calling other leaders. So some people didn't even allow us to get to them.
They took off.
Yes.
So the whole aim of that intimidation was to make sure people won't even come out to vote.
Yes.
And how can that be a free and fair election?
But it was free and fair on Saturday when we were doing the election, because there was no opposition. So international observers saw PDP
a free and fair election, quietness.
Because that's the question they should ask. There should be somebody somewhere fighting each other over one thing or the other at the polling unit in some places. Because we did a selection of those polling units and the leaders. It's not every leader that we are talking about. We are talking about leaders from history that we know can deliver their words, can deliver their local government, and that they are extremely important to the other party.
So when a leader is not seen, does that mean the people won't vote for that leader on the day of election?
Well, you know what has happened to a leader. Anything can happen to you during the day of election. And the leader is not even in any capacity to assist you.
Yes.
Then why should you now go and make trouble? Why should you now try your best? When if anything should happen, the leader will not be in any position to help you out. You just send the fear out. Yeah. Some of them have already passed the message, and then some of them don't even have the money to use in mobilizing people from their various houses to come and vote for them. We were the ones that were doing those things.
What can all this information achieve now?
It's deepen democracy.
It can't remove Governor Fayose from office.
Deepen democracy. That's what I want.
In other words, we have to look for ways to avoid what I am calling technical rigging.
Yes, that's why I said we managed the election. The election was not INEC election; it was our election.
But Governor Fayose can't be removed, in spite of all the revelations
I am not saying all these things to remove him.
No, but you see, the point is, having said these things now, it is now obvious to everyone that that wasn't an election properly so called.
Yes, I think it was Governor Fashola that made that statement. How can 16 local government and they did not win any, not even the incumbent local government? And then there was a particular professor of political science, I think from Femi Adesinas University or UNILAG, that said that this is
unprecedented.
Not possible. Yes, he said it is not possible. He was even very confident that theorists will never support what has happened. When you talk about Nigeria, we are highly intelligent people in Nigeria.
Yes, but Dr. Aluko, people can't forget that Election Petitions Tribunal, you insisted that the elections were good.
Whether election on that day was devoid of violence. And I said yes. Yes.
So is it because you went
we were talking about because there were nobody challenging us on that day. I know so many people in APC that are not greeting me today because of what happened.
And the sums of monies that you all allegedly received, do you have records of all those monies given by individuals, by the president himself, by the party? Do you have all the records?
I do.
Who are all the different people? Can you name them?
I mean, what is very important is the $2 million we used for the primaries.
Yes.
That I said came from Ifeanyi.
That's Transformation Ambassadors?
Yes, that's NNPC.
Okay.
And he said that he didn't have any office in NNPC. I remember we went to NNPC to collect the money.
Yes.
And we followed Governor Fayose, myself, and Right Honorable Femi Adesinas. Even at that point, they deducted 3 bundles. I mean, 3 bundles, that's 300,000. They said
because a bundle is $100,000 each.
And then we took 17 bundles.
For what? 300?
For Korea, they said Korea fees for presidency.
Korea fees
for presidency.
But you guys didn't argue about that?
It's money coming to us free now. It's like somebody giving you money and you are now counting it.
And you are settling. Yeah.
You know, Yorubas, we always tell you that, why are you counting money given to
you? but there was no courier fee on the $35 million.
No. I will tell you that, no. Because even the key was handed over to Fayose. It was Fayose that opened the trunk.
It was in a trunk box.
Yes. Obanikolo did not open it.
How does $35 million look? Is it as big as this table?
Very terrifying. It was army trunk box, very big. Army trunk box.
Cash.
It was carried by 2 soldiers.
With the minister then, Musili Obaniko.
Yeah. It was carried by 2 soldiers. And then I think that same day they took it to Onitsha. Then they bureau de change. And I think they brought it back Wednesday evening. The giant army sacks, 4.7 billion.
What do you
think? Like there was even a confrontation between, I won't mention the name, and Governor Fayose, who was now saying that in the exchange we lost 84 million out, and it was very bitter, and the person was very upset that I should be talking to me like that. I did all these things for you, but let's leave that. Fayose has 3 rooms in his wing, secured, and it was kept in the 3rd room. On the other side, we had the military hillocks permanently stationed there with a submachine gun looking at the entrance of Fayose's wing. There is no reason why I'll be telling lies.
Yes.
What do you say? He's not even arguing about the message. He's just
The
talking about the
messenger.
messenger. He's
Because
not talking-
these monies, these things happened.
Yes, and I can mention 7 other people that were there when it happened. Some of them have been calling me that I should not mention their name, and I said, we don't have any issue with you now. The issue we have is to drive this Ekiti project right.
It comes across as if you are so angry about this chief of staff thing, you don't even mind going down for the crime of perjury. Have you considered that you may be arrested?
If they want to arrest me, they should arrest Fayose too. The two of us must stand there. He should be arrested for treason and electoral fraud. So if he's talking about perjury, then I should be talking about treason and electoral fraud.
What do you then say to retired DIG Chris Omeben? You know, I read his interview at his 80th birthday. He expressed regrets at not being able or being allowed to interview you, question you, after he says he made direct appeals to Ray Ekpu and co. He says, yet they, and I'm quoting him now, allowed Kayode Soyinka to escape to the UK. End of quote. I've spoken with Mr. Ekpu on this matter, and of course he poo-pooed Chris Omeben's statement, saying they never prevented the police from interviewing you. Do you think Omeben's argument seems plausible, that at the time of the impact you seemed to not be there with Delegiwa?
Angela, I said earlier on that I wouldn't want to talk about Omobien.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't want to use your family program, to give credence to Omobien and all those things that he said about me. He has criminally libeled me severally. Before this incident, years back, he wrote a book
about it,
accusing me also wrongly, and it was Professor Bolaji Akiyemi that reviewed that book at the Institute of International Affairs. Instructively, Professor Bolaji Akiyemi, while reviewing that book at the Institute of International Affairs, and got to my own mention, stopped. He paused from his script and said that he hoped that the author, Omobien, had asked for the legal advice from his lawyer
before writing
before I mismentioned this allegation against Kayode. It's not the first time. That was one time there. About 3 years ago, he granted the Sun newspaper an interview saying that before the blast, I quickly rushed into the toilet. And then last year, he was coming out with another version to say that I left the room or so before the
Why would you want to kill Delegiwa?
Please, don't even ask me that question. Because it is non-sweet.
Yes.
Don't even ask me. I don't even want to listen to it or to, hear it, because I don't know how much you know about my personal relationship with Dele. Anytime I talk about this, it's just very emotional. Because I am a lucky person to be alive to be talking to you. I could have been dead with him. It was only by the grace of God go I. He held it. I handed it over to him, back to him. He gave it to me. I handed it over back to him.
What if you had opened it?
Yes,
because you have that kind of relationship.
Thank you. I could have. This is a man, Omobien, who claims today to be a reverend father. He's accusing me, who we should be protecting, as the survivor of the blast, as the first victim, apart from Dele himself, of the blast, who he should be protecting. Is accusing me wrongly, the way he has, done. Let us look at him in his present position. As a believer, maybe he has not heard of situations where you will have air crash and a baby will survive.
Yes.
Air crash, where hundreds have died, a baby will survive. Or you have earthquake and buildings and all kinds of structures had collapsed. The rescue mission had been going on for days and abandoned. A week after, in the places that had been abandoned, you still see survivors.
Yes.
Coming out. And it's querying your
survival.
My survival. I'm not God. That was the way God Almighty wished it for me. I didn't realize myself the kind of favor God did me that day. Delegiwa, God bless his soul. until I returned to my family home in Ibadan after, I recovered, before we buried Dele. And when I got to Ibadan, prayers were said, for me.
Yes.
There was one bishop there. When he was praying, he was trying to explain to the community what I just went through. And the way he was explaining it, he was saying that if you throw bomb into this spot, it was very dramatic. That it's not just this spot that will be affected. It will take everybody. Can you now imagine that this our son survived? That is biblical miracle.
The thing then is,
Yes.
why have you never sued him?
Thank you very much. And I think very soon he will get my lawyer's request to come to court, because what he has done is criminal libel, including the news agency of Nigeria that gave him that platform, to accuse me.
To utter those words.
Yeah, exactly. Because they should know that this is libelous. And if they should publish it, there are consequences. News agency of Nigeria should know that. And being someone in the same profession, they should have grabbed their telephone, at least to call me,
Yes.
and say, we have this piece of information. What is your reaction? They never did that. So, including News Agency of Nigeria, I think they should be taught a lesson, because the kind of profession that we all belong is a very serious one. Before you put a word,
You better be ready to back it up.
Absolutely.
And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.